Why are you crying if you're not afraid?
I'm afraid now, but I was.
Oh,
I don't. I wasn't afraid. I was afraid when I saw the men on the road.
In the quiet expanse of Roswell's desert, a mysterious crash ignited decades of debate. In the solitude of Solway Firth, a single photograph challenged our grip on reality. And in the dead of night in Kelly, Kentucky, a family's encounter with the unknown turned their farm into a fortress. These are just a few of the most chilling tales where ordinary people faced extraordinary events. But the story doesn't end with their encounters. Men clad in black ensured silence followed. Join us as we explore the creepiest encounters with extraterrestrials and the real men in black. Number 10. The Hill Abduction. On the night of September 19, 1961, Betty and Barney Hill, an American couple returning from a vacation in Niagara Falls, encountered what they later described as a UFO on a lonely stretch of road in New Hampshire's White Mountains. This event would go down as one of the most famous and thoroughly documented alleged alien abductions in history. As they drove through the sparsely populated area, the Hills noticed a bright object in the sky that appeared to move erratically. Concerned and curious, Barney stopped the car and used binoculars to get a closer look. Through the lenses, he observed what he believed were about 8 to 11 humanoid figures peering out of the craft's windows. Feeling increasingly uneasy, the couple decided to continue driving, but soon experienced buzzing sounds and vibrations, which seemed to echo through their vehicle. The next thing they knew, they found themselves driving home, but with no memory of 2 hours of their journey. Disturbed by these missing hours and physical evidence like the inexplicable scuffing on Barney's shoes and Betty's torn dress, they sought help. In the months following, Betty began having vivid dreams about the encounter. In these dreams, she and Barney were taken aboard the alien spacecraft and subjected to medical examinations by beings that communicated via telepathy. Their descriptions were typical of what would later become known as the gray aliens, beings with large eyes and oversized heads, lacking hair and with grayish skin. Seeking explanations, the Hills eventually underwent hypnosis under Dr. Benjamin Simon in 1964. These sessions were intended to recover lost memories from the night of their abduction. Under hypnosis, both recalled similar terrifying details as Betty's dreams. Barney, who had been skeptical and mentally stressed, recounted under hypnosis how they were examined by the aliens, who seemed particularly interested in their biological makeup. Dr. Simon, who specialized in hypnosis, especially for war-related PTSD, concluded that the Hills genuinely believed in their encounter, but likely experienced a singular psychological aberration, possibly a shared hallucination. Despite this, the detailed consistency of their accounts under separate hypnoses suggested otherwise to UFO enthusiasts and researchers. Adding a layer of intrigue, the Hills reported that after going public with their story, they had encounters with mysterious individuals who implied that the couple should not divulge too many details about their experience. These figures were akin to the so-called Men in Black, often described in UFO lore as silencing witnesses of UFO phenomena. The Hill abduction case was further legitimized through astronomical verification. Betty's star map, which she sketched from memory under hypnosis, a map she claimed was shown to her during her abduction, was later analyzed by amateur astronomer Marjorie Fish. Fish's analysis hypothesized that the map corresponded to a view of the Zeta Reticuli star system, a claim that some astronomers find intriguing but speculative due to the subjective interpretation of the star patterns. The Hill case received widespread attention after it was first publicized in a Boston newspaper and later in a book titled The Interrupted Journey and in a 1975 television movie, The UFO Incident. Number 9. The Travis Walton Abduction. On the evening of November 5, 1975, in the dense forests near Snowflake, Arizona, one of the most famous and well-documented alien abduction cases took place. Travis Walton, a logger working with a crew of 6 others, experienced an event that would become legendary in UFO lore. The crew had just finished a long day of logging and were driving home when they noticed a bright light in the sky. Curious and somewhat alarmed, they drove towards the light and soon found themselves in a clearing, facing a glowing disc-shaped object hovering above the ground. Against the advice of his colleagues, Travis exited the truck and approached the object. As Walton neared the UFO, a beam of blue-green light shot out, striking him and lifting him several feet into the air before violently flinging him backward. His colleagues, panicked and fearing for their lives, fled the scene. After a short distance, they stopped and debated whether to return for Walton. They decided to go back, but found no trace of him. Travis Walton had vanished. The crew immediately reported the incident to the local authorities. Skeptical at first, law enforcement officials launched a search for Walton. suspecting foul play. For 5 days, extensive searches yielded no results, and the remaining crew members were subjected to intense scrutiny and even polygraph tests to determine the veracity of their story. Remarkably, all passed, reinforcing the credibility of their account. 5 days later, Travis Walton reappeared, disoriented and traumatized, at a gas station in Heber, Arizona. He had little recollection of the past days, but soon began to remember fragmented details of his experience. Walton claimed that after being struck by the beam of light, he awoke in what he first thought was a hospital, but soon realized was inside a spacecraft. Walton described small, humanoid beings with large, dark eyes, typical of gray aliens. He detailed how he was subjected to various medical-like examinations, and eventually encountered human-like entities who communicated with him and escorted him to another part of the craft. These human-like beings, described as tall with blonde hair, provided a sense of calm and reassurance during his otherwise terrifying ordeal. Despite his detailed accounts, skeptics were not convinced. Walton underwent multiple polygraph tests over the years, most of which he passed, although some results were inconclusive or disputed. The controversy surrounding the case never diminished, making it one of the most debated abduction stories in history. Adding another layer to the mystery, after Walton's return, there were reports of men in black visiting individuals connected to the case. These mysterious figures allegedly intimidated witnesses, urging them to remain silent about the incident. The Travis Walton abduction case gained widespread attention, leading to a book authored by Walton himself, titled The Walton Experience, and a 1993 film adaptation, Fire in the Sky. Both works provided a detailed narrative of the events, although the film took creative liberties that were not present in Walton's original account. Number 8. The Robert Richardson Incident. In the dark, quiet hours of a night in Toledo, Ohio, in July of 1967, an ordinary drive turned into one of the lesser-known yet compelling accounts in UFO lore involving a direct physical encounter and subsequent chilling visits by men in black. Robert Richardson was navigating his car along a deserted road when suddenly, out of nowhere, he collided with what he described as an unseen object. Richardson felt the impact, yet what he hit did not resemble any conventional vehicle. Startled, he got out to inspect the damage and search for the object he had hit, but all he found was a piece of metal that seemed out of place and like nothing he had seen before. Realizing the oddity of the situation, Richardson took the mysterious metal debris home, intending to further investigate its origin. Curiosity piqued, he reported the incident to the local police the following day, but no record or evidence of a vehicle or any conventional object that could have been involved in the collision was found. The story takes a darker turn from here. Within a week of the incident, Richardson reported that he was visited at his home by 2 men dressed entirely in black. These individuals did not identify themselves, nor did they claim any affiliation with any governmental or private organization. They were the quintessential men in black, stoic, intimidating, and peculiar in demeanor. During this unnerving visit, the men questioned Richardson extensively about the incident. They seemed particularly interested in the piece of metal he had retrieved. The men in black advised him, with a not-so-subtle undertone of threat, that it was in his best interest to stop pursuing further inquiries into the collision. Adding to the intrigue, Richardson later reported receiving a phone call from a second set of individuals. These callers offered to purchase the metal fragment from him. When Richardson refused to sell, emphasizing his intent to learn more about the material, the callers ominously stated, "No matter how long it takes, we will get it." This communication only deepened the mystery and suggested a higher level of interest in keeping the incident under wraps. Despite the intimidation, Richardson persisted in his investigation, but never found conclusive evidence linking the metal to any known earthly or extraterrestrial technology. The original piece of metal, which was the only physical evidence of the encounter, mysteriously disappeared shortly after these encounters, leaving Richardson with no proof of the event. Number 7. The Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter. On the evening of August 21, 1955, a chilling event unfolded at a farmhouse in Kelly, Kentucky, involving the Sutton family. This incident, widely known as the Kelly Hopkinsville Encounter, is one of the most detailed and intriguing cases in UFO history. The ordeal began when Billy Ray Taylor, a guest at the Sutton family home, went out to fetch water from a well and saw a strange object land in a nearby field. Described as a glowing disc-shaped craft, this sighting was just the beginning of an extraordinary night. Taylor rushed back to the house to inform the family of his sighting, but his claims were initially dismissed as fanciful. However, soon after, the family's skepticism turned to horror when they began encountering small humanoid creatures near their home. The beings were described as around 3 feet tall, with large heads, pointed ears, glowing eyes, and silver skin. resembling goblins more than the conventional depiction of aliens. The family reported that these creatures would peer into the windows and doors, seemingly curious but startling in appearance. What followed was a prolonged siege where two of the family members, Billy Ray Taylor and Elmer Lucky Sutton, armed themselves and repeatedly shot at these creatures, claiming that the beings seemed resilient to gunfire. According to their accounts, when hit, the creatures would flip over and scurry away, only to reappear moments later. The Sutton family, along with Billy Ray, spent several hours that night defending their home from repeated visits by these creatures. The local police were called, and when they investigated, they found evidence of a struggle and genuine distress among the family members, but no physical evidence of the creatures. Skeptics later suggested that the assailants were great horned owls, which could be misidentified in the heat of the moment due to their glowing eyes, and the fact that the attacks ceased at dawn, which is typical behavior for nocturnal birds. Following this event, the farmhouse became a focal point for curiosity seekers and the media. However, the family discouraged publicity and soon refused all interviews. Yet, the story did not end there. In the following days, they were visited by mysterious men dressed in black suits, who identified themselves as government officials. These men advised the family not to speak of the incident, and seemed particularly keen on gathering information about the events of that night. Number 6. The Roswell Incident. On a quiet summer night in July 1947, something extraordinary happened near Roswell, New Mexico, that would become one of the most famous and controversial events in UFO history. This event, known as the Roswell Incident, sparked widespread speculation and gave rise to the modern age of ufology. The incident began when a rancher named William Mack Brazel discovered unusual debris scattered across his sheep pasture near Roswell. The materials included metallic sticks, shiny, reflective pieces, and tough, lightweight fabrics that appeared unlike any conventional materials known at the time. Puzzled by the debris, Brazel contacted the local sheriff, who in turn notified officials at the Roswell Army Airfield. The military quickly took interest, and Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer from the 509th Bomb Group, was dispatched to investigate and collect the debris. Initially, the Army Air Forces issued a press release stating that they had recovered a flying disc, a claim that was rapidly retracted. The following day, General Roger Ramey, commander of the 8th Air Force, stated that the debris was merely from a crashed weather balloon, a mundane explanation that did not satisfy public curiosity. Despite the official explanation, rumors persisted that the debris was extraterrestrial in nature. Accounts of bodies, described as small and humanoid with large heads and eyes, being recovered from the crash site further fueled these speculations. These stories were supported by various individuals, including mortician Glenn Dennis, who claimed to have knowledge about small, non-human coffins ordered by the military, and Lieutenant Walter Haut, the public information officer who drafted the initial press release, who later affirmed the existence of an alien craft and bodies. The controversy deepened in the 1970s and 80s as several documents surfaced, including the infamous Majestic 12 papers, which purportedly outlined a secret government operation dealing with extraterrestrial encounters. These documents remain heavily debated among experts, with many dismissing them as hoaxes. Over the years, the US government released multiple reports attempting to put the issue to rest. In 1994, the US Air Force published a report stating the debris was part of a top-secret project called Mogul, which involved high-altitude balloons designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests. In 2002, another report attempted to explain the reports of alien bodies as anthropomorphic test dummies that were mistakenly linked to the incident. Despite these explanations, many continue to believe that the events at Roswell were a genuine extraterrestrial encounter, and that there has been a concerted effort by the government to cover up the truth. This belief is bolstered by reports of men in black visiting those who spoke out about the incident, warning them to stay silent. Roswell has since become a symbol of UFO culture, inspiring movies, books, and a yearly festival that draws enthusiasts from around the world. The city embraces its status as a UFO mecca, complete with museums and themed attractions that cater to those fascinated by the possibility of alien life and government conspiracies. Before we move on, here's today's subscriber's pick. The image you see is linked to one of the most controversial and spine-chilling encounters ever reported, Dr. Jonathan Reed's alleged alien encounter. The being in the photograph, which Reed called Freddy, was found in the Pacific Northwest during a hike in 1996. According to Dr. Reed, this encounter started with his dog barking uncontrollably, leading him to a face-off with this eerie, humanoid creature. Reed claimed that after a scuffle, he struck the creature in self-defense and took its body back home, preserving it in his freezer. What followed was even more unsettling. Reed reported being visited by mysterious men in black, who warned him to stay silent and confiscated some of his evidence. This interaction only deepened the enigma, leaving Reed and those who believe him questioning the true extent of extraterrestrial presence on Earth. This story raises many questions. Could this be an elaborate hoax? Or did Dr. Reed truly encounter an alien being? And who were the men in black who showed such keen interest in silencing him? Share your theories in the comment section below. Number 5. The Maury Island Incident. On June 21, 1947, Harold Dahl reported witnessing 6 unidentified flying objects over Maury Island, Washington. This incident is one of the earliest known UFO encounters in the United States and predates the famous Roswell incident by less than 3 weeks, marking an important event in UFO history. Dahl, a harbor patrolman, was on his boat with his son, 2 crewmen, and his dog, when he observed 6 donut-shaped objects hovering about 2,000 feet above his vessel. According to Dahl, these objects were made of a reflective metallic substance, with a center hole that emitted what appeared to be lava or white-hot metal. As one of the objects seemed to malfunction, it expelled this material, which fell to the earth, causing damage to Dahl's boat and tragically killing his dog. The next morning, a man dressed in a black suit visited Dahl. This individual, later described similarly to the infamous Men in Black, warned Dahl not to discuss his encounter with anyone. The man suggested that bad things might happen to him and his family if he were to divulge what he saw. Despite this ominous threat, Dahl went public with his story, which caught the attention of local media and, subsequently, government officials. The story of the Maury Island incident became more complex when Fred Chrisman, a friend of Dahl's, claimed he investigated the debris from the incident. Chrisman reported that the material was unlike anything he had ever seen. The Air Force soon became involved, sending 2 intelligence officers, Captain William Davidson and Lieutenant Frank Brown, to investigate. After gathering the evidence and interviewing Dahl and Chrisman, the officers took some of the debris with them on a B-25 bomber, intending to return to their base in California. Tragically, the B-25 crashed near Kelso, Washington, killing both Davidson and Brown. The official explanation was that the plane had suffered engine failure, but the timing and circumstances led to rampant speculation. Conspiracy theorists suggested that the plane was sabotaged to keep the Maury Island incident under wraps, a theory that was never substantiated but added to the mystery of the case. Further investigations by the FBI led to claims that the incident was a hoax perpetrated by Dahl and Chrisman, possibly as a publicity stunt or to create a story interesting enough to be sold. Number 4. The Solway Firth Spaceman. On May 23, 1964, an ordinary family outing at Burgh Marsh, located near Solway Firth in Cumbria, England, led to one of the most intriguing and debated photographs in UFO history. Jim Templeton, a local firefighter and amateur photographer, was there to capture the scenery and his young daughter's day out in her new dress. Unbeknownst to Templeton, this simple photo shoot was about to enter the annals of UFO and paranormal lore. Jim snapped 3 pictures of his daughter. In the first 2, nothing unusual appeared. However, the third photograph revealed a bizarre figure in what appeared to be a spacesuit, standing just behind his daughter. The figure was clad in a white suit and helmet, oddly reminiscent of the modern-day astronaut gear, yet this sighting predated the common public imagery of such outfits, particularly in such a rural British setting. Templeton was adamant that he had not seen anyone else in the area when he took the photograph, and this was supported by the fact that the marsh was not easily accessible to the public. He initially thought little of the anomaly, believing it to be a photographic error, until he had the film processed. The developers confirmed that the photograph was genuine and unaltered, which piqued Templeton's interest and concern. Following the development of the film, Templeton took the photograph to the police, who could not ascertain any crime, and subsequently to the local newspaper. The story and the image quickly garnered public and media attention, escalating to global interest. This led to an investigation by Kodak, which offered a free supply of film to anyone who could conclusively prove that the photo was faked. No one succeeded in claiming this reward. The plot thickened when Templeton reported that shortly after the photograph was published, he was visited by 2 men who claimed to be government agents. Referring to themselves only as Number 9 and Number 11, they demanded to see the site of the sighting. They questioned him extensively, yet did not reveal any details about their identities or the organization for which they worked, fitting the typical profile of the so-called Men in Black known in UFO circles for their mysterious demeanor and lack of clear affiliation with any governmental body. Interestingly, Templeton's photograph caught the attention of the Australian Space Agency, which reported that a similar figure had been seen by their staff on a launch pad. This international interest added another layer of mystery to the case, suggesting that the spaceman was not an isolated phenomenon. Adding to the intrigue, Templeton later received a communication from a missile launch project at Woomera in South Australia, claiming that two large figures had been seen on their security footage, coinciding with malfunctions in the firing of the missiles. They saw a connection between their experience and the figure in Templeton's photograph, further complicating the narrative with hints of possible extraterrestrial surveillance. Skeptics have proposed several explanations for the spaceman image, including a misidentified beekeeper, a passerby caught in an unusual angle, or optical illusions caused by overexposure. Yet none of these theories completely satisfy the conditions reported at the time of the photograph. Number 3. The Herbert Hopkins case. In the fall of 1976, a chilling encounter occurred that would become one of the most eerie episodes in the annals of ufology, involving the so-called Men in Black. This incident involved Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a respected family physician from Maine who was serving as a consultant on a UFO case. Dr. Hopkins was working alone at home on the evening of September 11th when he received a phone call from an individual claiming to be an activist in the UFO community, who asked if he could visit Hopkins to discuss the UFO case he was investigating. Intrigued, Hopkins agreed, and within minutes, a man dressed in a stark black suit with a classic black fedora appeared at his door. The man was as peculiar in appearance as he was in timing. His suit was immaculate, his skin was deathly pale, and his lips were bright red. In an eerie, monotonous voice, he conversed with Hopkins. The visitor's demeanor was emotionless, his actions highly precise and unsettling. As they talked about the UFO case, the man ordered Hopkins to destroy any evidence he had related to the case, including all files and notes. He provided explicit details on how to eliminate the material, emphasizing that Hopkins could face dire consequences if he did not comply. One of the most unsettling aspects of the meeting was when the man in black demonstrated his otherworldly nature. At one point during the conversation, he ordered Hopkins to erase a coin. Hopkins watched, astonished, as the coin vanished from his hand, not through a magician's sleight of hand, but apparently dematerializing. The man explained that the coin would never be seen again, just as Hopkins' memory of the UFO case would also disappear. The visitor's message was clear: cease all research and outreach related to UFOs, or suffer consequences that could extend beyond mere threats. He suggested that his continued involvement might result in something much worse than mere intimidation. Following this warning, the man in black bizarrely claimed his energy was running low and requested permission to leave, which he did, just as suddenly as he had arrived. After the man left, Dr. Hopkins was left shaken, immediately destroying all related case files as instructed. He never again engaged in any UFO research and seldom spoke of his encounter, fearing reprisal from either the mysterious man or whatever agency he represented. Number 2. Albert K. Bender's unearthly encounter. Albert K. Bender, a well-known figure in the early days of ufology, catalyzed one of the most enduring legends within the field, the Men in Black. Bender's experiences in the 1950s would lay the groundwork for a narrative that continues to intrigue and mystify UFO enthusiasts and researchers to this day. In 1952, Bender founded the International Flying Saucer Bureau, IFSB, an organization dedicated to the research and investigation of UFO phenomena. Through the IFSB, Bender published a monthly newsletter called Space Review, which disseminated UFO sightings and theories to a curious and eager public. His work quickly positioned him as a prominent voice in the UFO community. However, Bender's burgeoning influence took a dramatic turn in 1953. After delving deeper into his investigations, he claimed to have uncovered information that could potentially prove the existence of extraterrestrials. Before he could release these findings, Bender stated that he was visited by 3 men dressed in black suits. These individuals explicitly warned him to cease all UFO-related activities. The nature of this encounter, as described by Bender, was profoundly unsettling. He reported that the men knew incredibly detailed aspects of his private life and investigations, which no ordinary strangers could possibly know. They communicated a threatening presence, and their message was unequivocal: stop researching UFOs or suffer severe consequences. The impact of this encounter was so intense that Bender heeded the warning. He abruptly shut down the IFSB and ceased publishing Space Review. Following this chilling episode, Bender became reclusive and seldom spoke about his experiences. When he did choose to share details, it was through cryptic statements and writings that alluded to the men's supernatural abilities and origins. In 1962, Bender elaborated on his ordeal in a book titled Flying Saucers and the 3 Men, where he described the Men in Black as beings that not only suppressed UFO information, but also seemed to possess otherworldly powers. Bender's account of the Men in Black set the stage for what would become a major component of UFO folklore. His description of their appearance, impeccably dressed in black suits, exuding an aura of threat and mystery, became the standard portrayal in later accounts and media representations. The interactions he described painted the men in black not just as government agents, which is a common modern interpretation, but as possibly something far more sinister and paranormal. The credibility of Bender's claims has been a topic of debate within the UFO community. Skeptics argue that his experiences, lacking corroborative evidence, might have been the result of psychological distress or fabricated to gain attention. Yet, many others in the field consider his story a cornerstone case that highlights the possible extent to which entities, governmental or otherwise, might go to manage public perception of UFOs. Number 1. The Mirage Men and Paul Bennewitz. Paul Bennewitz, a respected physicist and electronics expert, found himself ensnared in one of the most complex disinformation campaigns ever orchestrated by elements within the US government. His story began in the late 1970s when Bennewitz, operating from his home in Albuquerque, New Mexico, adjacent to Kirtland Air Force Base, started noticing anomalous signals and witnessing unusual aerial phenomena. Believing these phenomena to be of extraterrestrial origin, Bennewitz took it upon himself to investigate further. Utilizing his technical expertise, he began intercepting communications that he assumed were between UFOs. This interception, coupled with his observations of strange lights over the base, convinced him that he was on the verge of uncovering an alien presence. In 1979, Bennewitz presented his findings at a meeting focused on cattle mutilations, a topic that was already saturated with UFO conspiracies. It was here that he first came to the attention of a group of individuals who would later be termed the Mirage Men. These men, likely operatives from the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, AFOSI, saw in Bennewitz a potential security risk who might inadvertently expose sensitive military projects under the guise of extraterrestrial activity. To manage this risk, the Mirage Men embarked on a psychological manipulation strategy. They approached Bennewitz as insiders, affirming his theories and encouraging him to delve deeper into his research. As revealed by former AFOSI officer Richard Doty, the government's engagement with Bennewitz was twofold: to distract him from real military secrets and to use his theories as a barometer for the security of their own operations. Throughout the 80s, Bennewitz received a steady stream of disinformation from these sources. He was fed tales of underground bases, alien-human treaties, and impending invasions, narratives that he compiled into a detailed report, Project Beta. This document, which he believed to be an exposé of the alien agenda, was in fact a concoction of half-truths and fabrications designed to lead him astray. The constant stress and paranoia from his years of being manipulated took a heavy toll on Bennewitz's mental health. By 1988, his condition had deteriorated to the point where he believed aliens were communicating directly with him, and he suspected those closest to him, including his family, of being alien agents. His home was transformed into a fortress with sandbags for walls, indicative of his siege mentality. Eventually, the mounting pressure led to his hospitalization in a psychiatric facility. Moreover, Bennewitz's case was complicated by his encounters with the so-called Men in Black. These mysterious figures are often depicted in UFO lore as shadowy agents, tasked with suppressing knowledge of UFOs. In Bennewitz's experience, they appeared more as threats than protectors, intensifying his isolation and fear, and further obscuring the line between reality and the orchestrated fiction he was led to believe.